Quentin Letts is a sketch writer for The Times. Now, what does that mean? It is his job to pay a lot of attention to the things that fascinate people like me, which is not just the square and everything you can see in it, but the stuff that's ever so slightly outside of it, and to come at it from a particular point of view. He wrote last night of that giant aircraft that brought Her Majesty from Scotland back to London. Has so enormous an aircraft ever been commissioned to carry so tiny yet immense a load? Just an example of the talents of Quentin, and he's here with us at the front of the palace. Lovely to see you.
Very nice to have my job explained to me. I'm not sure that's quite what I do at all, but still.
Fair enough. I apologise.
But
no, explaining it to the people at home.
No, yeah, but you're very kind about it. But it is these sort of events. I mean, there is the main picture, the main tableau, if you like, but just on the margins, you sometimes see dignitaries behaving in a way that they don't always put on for the public. So yesterday at Edinburgh Airport, for instance, Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister of Scotland, grimly holding onto her hat, because airfields are very blowy places, and she got one sort of frisbee on her head, and it looked like she was about to take off. But you just see little human moments, and this is, despite being a great state occasion, there's a lot of humanity in it, not just in the grief, but also in the family coming together and in the nation as a family, because I think really what's happening here, you see all these people here, the British people all feel as though they've had a family bereavement.
A perfect example of that was when the family was standing guard in Scotland, and there was this really tight close-up of each of the different members.
Yes.
And you see Charles, of course, standing, looking down, and basically doing so for 10 minutes. But then there was this little look at Andrew, and Andrew's looking up like a person sort of checking, are we still praying? Yeah. Or a person very aware of being looked at, or something. It was a very odd moment where he wasn't present, he was looking.
You see those little human glimpses. Now, some people will say, oh, that is a chink in the perfection, we shouldn't have that. But to me, those little chinks are the powerful moments, because that's when you see that there's this flesh and blood here, trying to mourn, trying to get things right, and trying to present a symbol, and also to be themselves and to be true to what's going on in their hearts.
So, do you view, I'm trying to say this as kindly as possible, which is, there's a pomp, but at times there's those moments where you don't want people to be pompous. You don't want people to be
you don't want
turn on some
pomposity.
TV and you go, oof, okay.
And I loved it in the Westminster Hall the other day when there was an exchange of documents between the new king and between the two houses of Parliament. The Speaker of the House of Lords was waiting, didn't know when to start his bit, and you heard off stage this woman saying to him, go! Sort of clapperboard, start it. And, it was a little mistake, if you like, but it just brings it all, those little sort of grace notes of the action.
So what feedback do you get from those of which you write about sometimes?
Well, I try to avoid them.
I'm exactly the same.
Sometimes people get a bit cross. There's a former Deputy Prime Minister of Britain, John Prescott, who's a notorious pugilist, and I used to stay out of his way. I once saw him dropping his shoulder at me. I thought he was going to clobber me, but he just walked on by. But no, I think they know that it's not a game. It's the full picture of public life, and that's good, isn't it? It brings it to life, I hope, for the public.
So also somebody involved in all of this is Liz Truss, who of course is introducing herself as the Prime Minister. Yeah. She's not making a lot of noise. She's done her speeches, but there she is.
Nor should she.
Oh, correct. But she's turned around and she's at this moment of elevated attention. Do you think that she is playing it well, that, okay, she's in a shot, she's here and there, it's not about her?
It's not about her. So I don't think, actually, I think we would be less pleased if she were prominent.
Yeah.
And, the elected politicians are stepping back at the moment, and they're letting the hereditary politicians, because, the monarch is a politician in some ways, they're letting them be centre stage, and they have to, because that's this is about the head of state, it's not about the head of government.
When Andrew Morton and I were talking a couple of hours ago, he said that we're unfair to Meghan. And it's interesting talking to certain people here, is that certain people of a certain mindset, and certainly younger people, feel, well, hang on, okay, she's different. A lot of people don't like the interviews and the look at me and the podcasts and all the rest of it here. But there are certain sections that wail on this lady, and I don't know her, I think she's up herself, but just they wail on her.
Well, you've just done it yourself.
Yeah, but why do people wail on her, though? Rather than just go, I don't care.
I've got a 19-year-old daughter. I mean, I've got 3 children, and the youngest is 19, and she thinks that Meghan is a nuisance. So I don't think it's true to say all of that generation think that. And I think that the interview that Meghan and Harry did with Oprah was a bit sort of self-serving, and it was a bit unkind, and it was untrue. And people, people sniff out whether or not someone's being truthful and whether they're being genuine. And I just don't think people buy the self-pity and the sense of grievance. The grievance isn't justified.
Of what you know, what was the Queen actually like?
I think she was, as her image comes across, but probably more fun. And there was the tendency that she had when in public for the face to look a bit grim. And the reason that people have talked a bit this week about the smile, the reason that people talk about the smile was that the smile only came out occasionally. Most of the time, let's be honest, she looked like a German bulldog, and then occasionally you get this flash of.
But I've been
humour.
mean to Meghan.
And no, she wasn't mean to Meghan. There were others, and the smile was sincere. It wasn't a politician's smile.
Yes.
In that it wasn't smeared on the whole time. Vote for me. It was. It came up in response to people, and so I think she was the real biscuit. I mean, she really was, and. People loved her in a way that they love their grandparents. It's to be seen out there, the crowds. I mean, here we are, we're in this sort of little marquee here.
Yeah, with this little bubble.
We're in the bubble out there. I mean, to get through that crowd, it's just taken me an hour to get a few hundred yards. It's like swimming through stew.
It's now, again, in the same way that it's not about the Prime Minister, it's not about the media, but your eye of what you've been watching and hearing and reading, is the tone pretty decent, or are we sort of getting to over-the-top levels of coverage?
Every night I go to bed thinking we can't maintain this purple pace. And every day it seems to be increasing a little bit. But I hope that there's now going to be a few days when the coffin's not going to be moving. So perhaps there will be a little bit more time for reflection. And I hope that we don't completely lose sight of the humanity behind it, and we mustn't get too grovelling, because that really doesn't help the operation.
I agree completely.
And I would say, look at the Queen Consort. I think she keeps the King very rooted, and when he has his little tantrums about ink or whatever it might be,
I think she's been great.
I think Camilla will be there saying, putting perspective on things, and just keeping him the right side of a good humour.
So good to talk to you. I look forward to hearing more of your perspectives in the next while. And of course, you can read him as well. Thank you so much, Quentin.